Well, we read fantasy, and my name is TJ Reynolds. Today I'm here with Brittany Fichter, a superstar, awesome author extraordinaire. How are you
You're
doing?
sweet.
Yeah,
I'm doing great. How are you?
good, good. Before we get started on the questions, can you describe yourself as an author, just in general? What do you write? Why do you write? Stuff like that.
Well, I write mostly fantasy at the moment, although I am moving into clean contemporary romance this fall. And I got started with fairy tale retellings because I have been obsessed with them since I was little. And then I found Ella Enchanted and my world changed forever. um, and I since then have come out with an original fairy. It's like it reads like a fairy tale, but it's original. The Autumn Fairy trilogy, and I am currently coming out with it's going to be my eighth fairy tale, A Curse of Gems, which is a retelling of Toads and Diamonds within the month. And it's actually with the proofreader right now. and yeah, like I said, I've written one Beauty and the Beast children's book, and I'd like to do more, but they're very expensive to produce, so it's kind of slowed down from what I would like.
Yeah. Was it like,
And yeah, it's I have a hardback. I'm actually coming out with hopefully a paperback within the year as well, but I am not a Photoshop expert, and I am trying to decide whether it's worth it or not to pay someone to be one for me. So yeah.
it's very difficult. Yeah, we've dabbled with some children's stuff in Canva, yeah, because it's affordable, but it's not the best
Yeah.
quality, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
love Canva.
other than fame, fortune, and immortality, why do you write?
Um, I've Stephen King said that you're a writer if you make yourself stop, and you can't. And I guess I've written since I was a little kid. Now it's not always good, but I just love to write. And as I've gotten older, I've realized it's a way for me to process kind of what's going on in my life and what's going on in the world. And a lot of the themes I may not realize while I'm going through it, but afterwards I'll look back at it and say, wow, that was a really personal theme, apparently,
Yeah,
that I was apparently working out. And I want to glorify God. And it's interesting because I never meant to start out writing like pure allegory. That was never the goal. But I have been told by other people that quite a few of my books are somewhat similar to C.S. Lewis, and that a lot of things mirror, what I believe. Um, I
yeah,
mirror Christianity. So I actually started marketing them as Christian fantasy. I finally just came to accept that, and I didn't like the term at first because I didn't want to be boxed in as
yeah.
you must follow these procedures, but I finally realized that that's pretty much what I'm doing. So you don't have to be Christian to enjoy my books, but they do. A lot of the themes do go through there, and like I said, it's just something that I'm just not able to stop. I guess
Yeah.
it's how I deal with life.
That's good. Once you got the disease, it's hard to let go, right?
It really is.
In fact, you brought up Stephen King, and he's got issues. Like he's upset editors and publishers because he won't stop writing. So they're
Oh,
like,
really?
"Can you finish that draft?" And he's like, "I'm writing two other books." He's written so many books, he just won't stop.
Uh
So
huh.
he's very prolific, obviously.
He is, and he's rather opinionated too.
I'm sure he's got many opinions. Magic carpet or crystal ball, and why?
Oh, magic carpet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
we just brought my daughter to see the new Aladdin, and I wish I were rich enough to bring us to the 3D one. I'm not, but that would have been fantastic.
yeah. 3D is fun, but I get sick. I just leave nauseous and with a bit of a
Oh,
head.
I'm sorry.
Just throws me off. My eyeballs can't take it.
I'm a kind of a junkie when it comes to roller coasters and any sort of motion. I love 3D motion things.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely magic carpet.
Okay. Love or lies? Which plays a bigger role in your books?
Ooh, well, that's hard to say because both. I mean, you always have both. Like,
Yeah.
and something my editor is fond of saying is we all lie to ourselves. We all tell ourselves things that aren't true, whether it's about the world or ourselves or something. But I would have to say love because love always has to break through the lies.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that question too. I just wrote that. I always love when an author and sometimes it's even in like poetry when they're saying their voice is very truthful, and then they'll say
Hmm.
and like I lied 3 times, and it just, man, it's got punch.
Yeah.
Like, well, which one did you lie about? What just happened? I don't know. I believe,
Yeah.
and now I shouldn't believe you. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay. What is your most unpopular opinion?
Oh, geez.
I know.
Well, and the funny thing is, I personally keep a lot of my personal stuff like off of well, I have Facebook stuff. I don't let my readers on my personal stuff because I have a lot of political stuff that I'm like, I don't want that to touch my brand. That's, my brand is my brand, and then this is my personal life. As an author, ooh, my unpopular opinion as an author. um, I guess one of my unpopular opinions would be I really, really dislike I don't know, I guess the way a lot of romance is portrayed. Um, and I don't know if that's unpopular or not, but I particularly find it very difficult to read a lot of romance.
Tell
And
me
I
why
want to.
I can agree with you.
I'm sorry.
I said, tell me why so I can agree with you, because I think I have issues too.
Well, I would say it's because a lot of the romance is just so easily wrapped up, and it's like the characters I hate insta love. I really do. And um they just the whole thing basically you see through either rose colored lenses, or the characters are furious with the other characters. There's not as many mixed feelings as there are in real life,
Yeah.
and it's like your life suddenly revolves around that person, which, yes, I mean, I'm married. I'm Twitter pated with my husband to this day, but um I guess I dislike how cut and dried they make their romance, which when you're like, well, real love is not that clean. It's messy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It seems like it's balanced on extremes, right? Um,
Hmm.
my least favorite is why would you call it love if you hate each other? There's like a lot of that they hate each other, and it's like really
Hmm.
toxic, right? It's so toxic, and at the
Yeah.
end, like, oh, but I just can't. He's so handsome, and I'm like, no, he's not. You don't like him. Choose someone who's kind to you, right?
Yes, the nice guy.
Choose someone that respects you, please. I have 2 daughters. Mm-mm. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, my poor husband, actually, he was my first boyfriend. I'd never had a boyfriend before him. I was in college. I'd never even been on a date. I mean, I took my brothers to like prom and Sadie Hawkins because I didn't want to take a date. I just wanted to go with someone. So I was like, hey, I'm calling in a favor. But my dad actually brought a bullet to his meeting with my husband when my husband asked to court me, and put his name on it and said, this is for you if you ever hurt my
Oh
daughter.
my
I was like, well, we know that my husband is amazing material because he made it through that.
God. Yeah.
He was brave enough to continue. Um,
Wow.
and I mean, my dad loves my husband now, but I'm the only girl and I'm the oldest. So it was kind of like, how dare you look at my child? But yeah, my dad always, he always treated my mom really well. He treated me really well. I mean, we had our bumps, but, I never for a minute doubted that I was loved. And I was raised to believe, you better find a man who respects you and treats you well. Um, because it's not, I don't know, it's toxic. And I had that example, so I never had to wander into the, um, I don't know, the feeling of needing a man to fill the hole in my life, because I had it. And so I knew what to look for. And I was talking with some of my writer friends recently, and they were saying that like bully romance is apparently a trope, and it's a really common one. And I didn't even know that was a thing. And I just can't even imagine anyone putting that on a pedestal. And that's not the majority of contemporary romance. But
That's the first time
um,
I've even heard that term, but I've
yeah.
heard about several books where the main character gets bullied or is treated poorly by the male, and then
Mhm.
she doesn't like it, but then falls in love with him, and then
Yeah.
she has to treat him how to be nice, which is also weird. He should learn how to
Yeah.
be a man on his own. It's not her responsibility to
Yeah.
educate him on morality. Ugh, yeah. Me and you,
Yeah.
girl,
And
agree.
I've always said with my male characters, they're how did my dad put it? Because we were talking about it once. their moral compass might not point directly north, but it's going to be in the region. And by the end of the book, it's going to be pointing north because they're going to have their butt kicked
Yeah.
to get it that direction. You know, I don't think it's right to put toxic relationships on a pedestal.
You can
So anyways, that's,
yeah, like
I'm sorry?
it's interesting to portray them artistically, but usually when you in like literature, it doesn't look good. It's not put on the pedestal. It's not flattering.
No.
Very cool. Anyway, do you have an event or a period of your life that turned you into the writer you are today?
I don't know about a single event. I've written, like I said, as long as I can remember. And my mom is a teacher, and so we always had notebooks and pens all over the house. And I would just hide in my room for hours, just writing on composition notebooks. But what got me to self-publish my first book was I was pregnant, and I was going through Stephen King's on writing, and he had a challenge for writers in there that was write something that you would never ever show to anyone else. And I was like, well, I love Beauty and the Beast, and that's like so dear to my heart. I would mess that up, so I can't do this, but I'll do it for the book. I sat down and started writing, and within 10 minutes, I knew I had to write the book. I was like, okay, forget the fear. I've got to do this. Yeah. And with my daughter's due date looming, I was like, well, if I don't get this out before she comes, it's probably not going to happen, at least not for a long time. So I published it. Now, it was very rough. I have since polished it up quite a bit, but it was first published the week before she was born, and I got the books in while I was they were delivered to our house while I was in the hospital. So I guess you could say that was my event.
Oh, that's great. That's just totally, and that's a great prompt. It really is.
Yeah.
Because if you're afraid of it, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so scary, but that's where you write best, is that vulnerable edge. You know, like, but I don't want to, but I need to. And you're like, oh, that's it. That's gold.
Yeah, it's not going to be good if it's easy.
Right. Favorite side character, trickster, or crone that you've written?
Oh, side character. Well, he's a side character in one of the books, but he will be getting his own book eventually. In Cinder Stars and Glass Slippers, which is my retelling of Cinderella. Again, I have one of those series where a lot of the characters become, related in some way as the books go on. And Nicholas is the main protagonist. He's Prince Charming. And his best friend is Henry, who is the son of Issa and Ever, which are my Beauty and the Beast characters. And they are trouble together, but they were so much fun to write because I have two brothers and I know how boys communicate. Yeah. And they've been friends since, boyhood. So their idea of a greeting is, well, you shut up. You shut up. So I had a lot of fun writing Henry. Now he will, like I said, be getting his own book, but it was really fun because I feel like that's another pet peeve of mine is people who write the other gender and have no idea what they actually sound like when they talk to each other. And I found that in retellings of fairy tales, I think most of them are written by women, and a lot of times when the men talk to each other, they sound like women talking to each other. And that just gets me because I'm like, that is not how boys talk. And so I had a blast writing Henry and Nicholas because they're always getting in trouble and they know each other really well. And so it was fun to write them interacting and putting them in positions where they were in danger and had to figure things out together. So that was fun.
Very cool. Very cool. I guess this is sort of related now because of where that last one went, but what scene from your book was the most favorite to write?
Ooh, well, that was for Cinderella. If we're talking about a curse of, I'm sorry?
Yeah, go for the promotional book.
Okay, well, if we're going for A Curse of Gems, it's a somewhat dark book because of the setting. Like the country is basically, the British used to dump all their criminals in Australia. It's basically that, but it's like all the surrounding companies have put their criminals in this area, this magical land, and they've walled them in and basically said, okay, you guys stay here. Their kids are allowed to come out if they apply and they're accepted, but just the land itself is horrible. And, let's see, but I did have to, so I had to really work to put in lighthearted moments because it is a rather dark setting. But I think, honestly, one of my favorites, let's see, I have a few. So the main premise is that Prince Lucas, who is the younger brother of my Prince and My Little Mermaid retelling, his older brother is the king, and he's sending him on this mission into this dark land that he's like, nobody else can do this. All of the other people I've sent are dying. You're the best military leader we have. I gotta have you do this. And so Lucas goes into this land. Well, his mother, who is always causing trouble for everybody because she is selfish and has a very very narrow view of the world. It's all revolves around her. She has been insulted by her sons because they basically told her to mind her own business and stay out of the kingdom's affairs. And so she decides, when the main character's sister, who's trying to get her out of this land, contacts her and says, hey, I've got a daughter who makes gems. She contacts the queen. Well, the queen waltzes in on her own into this very dangerous land, has no idea that she's in danger, and has found his secret plans and goes and says, hey, I'm going to bring his bride to him and meet him, and then I'll show them, because that's what someone wants on a secret mission in a dangerous land, is their mother waltzing around with some strange girl. And so there was a really fun scene to write where the mother is angry, and so she's been giving him the silent treatment. And he turns around and says, hey, for this part, I don't want you to talk. You're banned from talking. No more talking. This is a dangerous place. And she's like, I can't believe you haven't figured out that this is, I've been giving you this silent treatment. And Lucas turns around to Jael and is like, oh, did you hear that? She's been angry with us. I thought she was giving us a break. And anyway, Dreen is just awful. So it was a lot of fun to put her in, and she frustrates everyone else. And then Lucas kind of gets back at her expense in a kind way. But I don't know, scenes like that were really fun because Dreen is she messes everything up that she touches. So. Oh,
that's fun. I love terrible characters when they're done right. You're like, you're just such a
you're just she means well somewhere deep down inside.
Yeah. If you could ask anything from your readers, what would it be?
Oh, let's see. Anything from my readers. That's hard. Yeah. Just staying in contact with me is a lot of fun. I love interacting with my characters. I have my Facebook page, but I also have a Facebook group that people apply to get in. And I'm not like super picky with who gets in. It's just to keep out spam and bots and people who really don't belong here and are trying to spam everybody else. But I really love contacting my characters or my readers and keeping up with them and hearing from them. And we have polls on that page, and I have giveaways, and we have lots of random conversations about Elizabeth and Darcy. So that's it's really fun to keep in contact with them on things like Facebook and Instagram, because it helps me to really get to know them, to get to know what they want, because I do try to do things that interest and help them. Like recently I put out, actually I'm drinking out of it, but I got my first art done. And this is art that I had specifically painted for Before Beauty, and then with a quote. But before I put it out through, because I use Society 6 print on demand, I really asked my readers, is this something you want? Because, it costs time and money. And they did. And so I was able to ask them, okay, what characters do you want? What kind of quotes do you want? And they were able to help, which, I don't know, it just makes the process a lot more rewarding, because you're like, we all did this together. It's not just me throwing things at the internet and hoping it catches the wind.
Yes. Now you've got some cool merch.
Right? I do. I love this cup. I'm like, oh, it's my special cup. If all else fails, I have a cup.
Okay, cool. What author has been most inspiring to your work?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'd have to say it's a toss-up between C.S. Lewis and Gail Carson Levine. I got my love of fantasy. Well, I mean, I've always loved it. I've loved fairy tales since I can remember. But as far as I don't know, a long fantasy story that feels epic, it's not epic like Lord of the Rings, but it is somewhat epic, would be C.S. Lewis. It takes place over a period of time and lots of lands and lots of people. And that was my first taste of that kind of fantasy. And then Gail Carson Levine was the first person that I ever found with a retelling, aside from, basic Disney stuff. And I had a fairy tale anthology that was that thick from Reader's Digest. But she was the first person that I'd always wanted to know more about fairy tales. They were never enough in their original form. And so to see them brought to life with Ella Enchanted, and then later she did Fairest, and
Yeah.
she has the Tales of Biddle. That just changed my world because I was like, oh my gosh, people can do this.
I know what you mean. That's really cool. Yeah, I had, I don't know if you know of Junot Diaz's A Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde.
I've heard it. I haven't read it.
It's got some brutality to it, so it's pretty intense, but he combines real world realism, like it's in a way it's a trauma and a war story, and then you get fantasy in the middle of it. And I was like, you can do that? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I'm interested in writing. I'm gonna try this,
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Before we get going though, I just wanted to know, where can we find you on the net? Where do you lurk? And do you have any readings coming up?
Yeah, my website is brittanyfichterfiction.com, and that's Fichter. So it's one of those weird German names that nobody can pronounce. But so brittanyfichterfiction.com, and I have an Instagram, I have Facebook. Like I said, I have a Facebook author page, but if you look in the group section, I have Brit's Fellow Fairy Tale Fanatics, which I totally should have shortened, but that's the group, and we have a blast on there. Like, we're always posting video clips and book quotes and random stuff, but usually that's where I am when I'm avoiding my work. Is I'm like, oh, let's go in here and I'll socialize with my friends. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I have a Twitter, but I don't really use it. So
yeah, do you have any appearances or book cons or signings or anything coming up?
Not planned right now. I did do a book signing last year. I did a retelling of the Nutcracker based in post-World War II, based on kind of the area of Fort Bragg. And so I did one at the military museum. Sorry, there's like a bug. That was really fun. And they've talked about having me back, so I might go back next year, but that wouldn't be till like winter. But I do have, like I said, A Curse of Gems coming out in hopefully like right at the end of June. I'm waiting to hear back from my proofreader when she's exactly going to have it back, but it should be back. It should be out no later than like the first couple of days of July, if it doesn't hit by the end of June. I'm trying to push it as fast as I can. But yeah, that's a retelling of Toads and Diamonds, because that was a fairy tale that not many people have done, and it just irked me because it's a really weird fairy tale. So we had to make sense of it.
It needed to be rewritten, right?
It needed to be explained. I felt I liked it. I just felt like it needed a little more explanation. So that's where we went.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. I had a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Well, it was nice meeting you, and have a good one, and keep writing, sister friend.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.